Hi guys, we finally got to the semi-final stage of Super Rugby. One South African team left, the Lions. Just one, Ryan, and let's maybe celebrate them, because that's about all we can do in a South African rugby context.
You think I'm going to let you get the hook that easily, Craig? You called your beloved Sharks to lose by, what was it? I think you said 10 to 15 or something in that region. I told you 30 plus. Apologize to me.
It was only 30, it wasn't 30 plus.
Let's get on with the one South African team that's left in this competition.
Yeah, the Lions, I mean, to me, they are building momentum at just the right time. You know, Malcolm Marx this week spoke about the fact he reckons they are just as good as they were last year. You know, I'm not quite so sure, but speaking of Marx, I think we need to take note of how much of a difference that player has made to the Lions since coming back. He's really revolutionized their pack. Last weekend, made 4 or 5 turnovers. He's a massive player for the Lions and for the Springboks, and I think it'll make a massive difference to the Boks as well when he's involved in that rugby championship. Nick Mallis called him the world's best hooker, and I think he is at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of you. Look, I mean, you would have watched Bismarck in those early days at the Sharks in that 2007 team that won the Super Rugby trophy at Kings Park at the time. And yes, he was playing under John Smith then, but there was just something special about him. You could have seen him, and you would have tracked his career even further back than that. You watched him as a kid, and there was just something like special about him. And Malcolm Marx has got exactly that thing, right? He's dynamic. He's like unbelievably powerful, and it seems that he's got that special ingredient, that mental kind of, that temperament thing that makes him perform consistently week in, week out at a really high level. Those are all the boxes that Bismarck ticks, and these are all the boxes that Malcolm Marx ticks. So for me, he's a really, really special player, And when, you know, building up to this discussion we had now, I thought about it. I thought about what you said and what Mallet said, and the view that he is the world's best hooker at this time. And you go like, who's kind of at that level? And really nobody is in the world. He's a national asset for us in a Springbok context, but more importantly for the Lions this coming weekend.
Yeah, and in quite a few ways, it actually reminds me of the All Blacks' Dane Coles in the way he gets around the park, and he's you know, super aggressive over the ball in terms of that breakdown work he does. But it also got me thinking about, you know, who will the Boks look at in terms of you know, their backup at hooker going forward towards the next World Cup? Because Bongi and Monambi for me looked really good in those June Test matches. I really like Aka van der Merwe as well. And then who will be the guys beyond that, really? Is there space then for Bismarck, who could have been involved in June, or Skulk Brits? Because 37, there's kind of been another lifeline given to him. But can you look beyond the 3 local hookers? I'm not really quite sure. I think in a perfect world, it would be a luxury to have a Skulk Brits or a Bismarck du Plessis in a mentorship capacity. But you've got Aka, you've got Bongi, and then you've got Marx, who's just a cut above the rest.
Yeah, I'm picking Bismarck every time as the backup there, because I think in a World Cup context, we need that experience, and the likelihood may be that we take a relatively inexperienced side to the World Cup next year. If you look at the 23s that Rassie picked for this England series and who is likely to pick for the Rugby Championship, that's an inexperienced squad. And experience across the park is critical, I think, to winning World Cups. You haven't had a rookie side that has won a World Cup ever. They've always been laden with experience. So for that reason, I picked Bismarck. I also think that even at this point of his career, he's still a cut above the hookers that you've mentioned, your Akas, your Bongi and Monambis. Those players, they're talented. They're certainly talented, and they may have a Springbok future. Any time will tell. But Bismarck is the proven kind of product, and I would go with him for those 2 reasons.
Yeah. But just moving then towards a bit of a look at the semi-finals, and just touching on what we and Marx have spoken about in saying that the Lions, he reckons, are just as good as they were a year ago. But you know, I looked at that record. They dropped 1 game all of the regular season last year, and they've won 9 out of 16 this time around. So I don't think they are quite the cohesive unit that they were last year, where they hosted a final. But having said that, they've built a nice little bit of momentum in recent weeks, and I think, you know, they're going to be far too strong for the Waratahs, a team having now had to travel from Sydney to play at Ellis Park. So I don't doubt that the Lions are going to make it through to another final. but that's likely to be in Christchurch because I think the Crusaders will overcome the Hurricanes. So again, we could be looking at a situation where they've got to the final two, but just one hurdle too far.
Yeah, bless his soul, Malcolm Marx and Johan Ackerman said it as well. They're not as good as the team last year. How can they be? They've lost some key players. They've lost what I think is probably the best local coach we have to a English club side, and so yeah, I don't know if it was just a spur of the moment thing for Marx to say that, and Ackerman kind of just wanting to boost his former franchise. But they're not the same side. They're clearly not the same side. Are they building momentum at the right time in the tournament? Certainly they are. But to claim that they're the same side as last year is like laughable. So I'm on the same page as you. It would be a travesty if we lost to the Waratahs in Joburg, especially this Lions team, because they're so superior to the Waratahs team that's traveling here. So it'd be a travesty if we lost that. We'll discuss. Hopefully, we'll discuss a Lions Crusaders final next week, or Lions and whoever the final next week. I don't see the Crusaders losing in the semi-final. But so to look ahead that far, maybe let's just hold on. If it does come down to a Lions Crusaders final, the Lions are not the team that they were last year. The Crusaders are a better team than they were last year. And like I say, we'll discuss it then, but I don't see them winning the trophy. But that's irrelevant for now, and I hope that they embarrass my opinion. I mean, you know, we spoke about Marx, and it's only a matter of time before he's recruited by a big foreign franchise. That's the reality of South African rugby at this point. Our best players are easy picking for foreign franchises now because they offer so much more, not only the money side of things. You're able to challenge yourself professionally in a different environment. You're able to experience, if you go to an English side, for instance, you're able to experience England and Europe more broadly. You know, as with a young family, or even as a single guy. I mean, those things are attractive for you. We can't hold on to the players like Marx. So it begs the question then, what are the Lions going to be next season, or 2 seasons from now, 3 seasons from now, when those European clubs pillage some more? Yeah. It is what it is. But in present times, they should beat the Waratahs this weekend, no question.
Yeah, what margin are you reckoning there?
I think they're comfortable winners there. So for me, I think they'll beat them by 20 going away. I just think they're so much better in key areas across the park. We saw last weekend how dominant they were at the gain line. We spoke about how critical that was going to be. It's always critical in rugby, but especially in knockout matches like this. If your opposition can't get momentum, the pressure of the semi-final situation, knowledge that this is the end of the road for you, that all builds up. And I think that's what they'll do to the Waratahs. They'll starve them of quick ball, and the Waratahs have liked to have played off that quick recycle and looking at broken field opportunities again, all of these things that we speak about often. And the Lions are so good at killing you there. So I think that's what they'll do. They'll starve them off position there. They'll absolutely obliterate them at the set pieces. Especially the line-out. I think the Waratahs line-out is vulnerable, and the Lions line-out is really functioning at kind of high efficiency at this point. And so all of that together, I'm looking at the Lions going 20 and beyond.
I'm going to naturally be a little bit more conservative than you, but I was impressed by the way the Waratahs came back against the Highlanders last weekend, and I think they're also looking quite good in terms of the Australian teams that we so often write off. But you're quite right in saying that you know, the Lions pack and set piece I think will be far too superior, and if we remember, they beat the Tars 29-0 in Sydney earlier this year, so I think the Lions will definitely have an edge there. So 10 to 15 I reckon will be about the margin we're looking at. And then just quickly to the first semi-final, Crusaders and Hurricanes, probably the 2 best teams in the competition if you think that they actually finished with the most log points at the end of the conference stage. So it should be a cracking derby, and I think it'll be far more competitive than last weekend's game in Christchurch. I'm
going to let you go on. I'm going to give you the Kanye now. I'm going to let you continue. But Craig, isn't it just a travesty that you have a tournament format that puts the 2 best teams against each other in a semi-final, right? for me, the Hurricanes, it's just a travesty for me that the two best teams in the tournament by a country mile should be playing each other in the semi-final. That should be the Super Rugby final right there. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, you raise a perfectly valid point, because I mean the Hurricanes have now had to play the Chiefs in the final pool game. They had to replay them in the quarterfinal, and now their reward is to go to Christchurch to play a semi-final against the Crusaders after a really good season from them. So, I mean, Chris Boyd's come out and really questioned the tournament format. I mean, he's going overseas now, so he doesn't have to hold any punches back, you know. And he's also raised that point. There has to be change, and we'll hopefully see it when they renegotiate, as they are now, the format. But I mean, just looking at the Crusaders, I mean, like, it's such an indomitable team. They've just looking at the stats of all finals fixtures, they're going into their 20th. They've never lost at home. I just can't see the Hurricanes, as good as they are, being able to knock the Crusaders over at home. So I'm going for the Crusaders win 8-10.
Yeah, and we were speaking about celebrating South African teams, and I mean, it's right that we do that, but it doesn't preclude us from celebrating a franchise like the Crusaders, who've built something really special there and have been there and thereabouts for the majority of this competition, despite losing key players. I mean, in South Africa we always lament losing key players, but these guys just have a system in place, and it's a blueprint that we need to follow, that where they keep churning out, yes, they went through a period where they had to rebuild, right? And that's understandable in a professional game, that you aren't going to be dominant throughout the lifespan of a competition. You can't. It's just impossible. And they rebuilt their franchise, and they've been there and thereabouts, and now they've got this team that is really special, one of the best in the competition's history, I think. I mean, I think back to some of the special teams, the Brumbies teams of the early 2000s, the Crusaders themselves in the early period of the competition, even the Bulls team of late 2000s. Those were really special teams, and this Crusaders team is right up there with them. I think they'll have too much for the Hurricanes, who in their own right are a really, really good team. And again, I can't stress how disheartening it is for me to see them play the Crusaders in the semi-final, because that should have been the final. But I think the Crusaders will have too much for them. It's going to be a really good game. I'm looking forward to watching that more so than I am the Lions Waratahs, in all honesty. But I think the Crusaders will be far superior. And for me, it's 15 to 17 better than the Canes there.
Well, cool. Thanks, Ryan. I mean, we mustn't forget that if the Hurricanes do manage to pull off an upset in Christchurch, that the Lions could even host a final. But whatever the case may be, let's hope we're at least talking about the Lions next week.